Mic'd up.
Welcome everyone to John Reger Golf is Mic'd Up, presented by Zenni Optical, affordable high-quality eyewear for everyone. Visit ZenniOptical.com today. John Reger Golf is Mic'd Up presents casual conversations with some of golf's most interesting and great personalities. Today's episode is an equation. What do you get when you combine PGA Hope plus Warrior Companion plus the 2025 PGA Show? You get a dog named Skeeter. So our guest personalities today are Jack Bodolosky from Warrior Companion, an organization that provides veterans with service animal health care, and Chris Nowak, Marine Corps veteran and PGA Hope's military and veteran liaison. Gentlemen, welcome to Mic'd Up.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Well, I think we're going to start out first with Jack from Warrior Companion. And Jack, why don't you tell our listeners out there what Warrior Companion is and what special things you have coming up with that?
So Warrior Companion was founded by myself. I'm a combat medic, and I felt like I was always missing something, helping out my veterans that are out of the service, not only in the service. So I formed Warrior Companion. We provide pet insurance for service animals, for disabled veterans and first responders. So if you know any veterans out there that is permanently disabled or any first responders that are personally disabled and they have a service animal, we cover them with pet insurance so that way they can go to their veterinarian in need and take care of all the veterinarian cares from preventative care all the way to catastrophe care. God forbid they get sick or injured or whatever, they're all covered with pet insurance. And that way that takes a lot of the pressure off of the veteran that's on a fixed income. Most veterans that are on fixed income make about $4,000 a month, which is not a lot of money. And animals will, the service animals can eat up most of that if they get ill. So that's why we started Warrior Companion.
Well, that's fantastic. Hey, Chris, I noticed you're back.
Yeah, sorry about that. A little safe flight issue, but squared away now. I'm good to go.
Well, we all live in Florida, Jack part-time and Chris full-time, myself full-time. And I know that seems like every time I get my windshield replaced because a rock hits it, it seems like it happens again like the next month or so. So
yeah,
we all understand how that works. But
well, Florida likes throwing rocks, sticks, and stones. So, it's good.
Well, I've always subscribed if you live in a glass house, don't throw stones. That's for sure. Hey, so Chris Nowak, Marine Corps veteran, PGA Hope's liaison for military and veteran affairs. Tell us a little bit about yourself and PGA Hope.
Sure. Well, grew up in a military family. My dad served in the Navy, was up and down the East Coast as a child. Unfortunately, we lost him at 58 to Agent Orange from his service in Vietnam. And so I've always been military focused, greater good. So obviously, like any good Navy son would do, I joined the Marine Corps in 1983, straight out of high school. Trained, went over Operation Bright Star, did a couple Team Spirits and whatnot. So ended up getting a training opportunity with the Army, training with the Army. The Army didn't realize we were supposed to have blank rounds that day. And so I ended up getting hit with friendly fire, which resulted in the amputation of my leg in 87. So I lost my leg to friendly fire. Went to work for the VA right after that, worked prosthetics, and then got involved in adaptive sports. Ended up doing the National Adaptive Sports Programs for the Department of Veterans Affairs out of D.C. During that time, discovered golf as a great therapy for myself and recognized it for other veterans. Was in conversation with PGA about doing something together under the Department of Affairs umbrella of adaptive sports. Budgeting, things like that just really wasn't working out. And PGA said, hey, we're upping our foundation. We got a military golf thing. What do you think? So just kind of a natural marriage that came together. So helped start PGA Hope with Scott Kimmick. Got the MOU from the Department of Veterans Affairs signed by the secretary so it could recognize it as a modality. And that's been a big success. But
that's huge kudos because that's a lot of hurdles you just hurdled.
Yep. And it gives you, when you have a program that therapist and anybody in the VA can do a direct referral to, and not have to worry about answering, did you show favoritism? Are you getting a kickback or anything like that? Have any repercussions of doing that? So whether it's, a social worker, a therapist, primary care provider, anybody interacting with the veteran that knows about the Hope is, free to make a referral, and we'll take care of make sure that veteran gets served. So that's really helped us grow the program. But now, we're served over 15,000 veterans in 500 locations this year. And,
Wow.
and those are, when I say that number, those are unique veterans. They're not repeats. We have like a 4% repeat rate. And that's a 6-week program that they're committing to an hour to 2 hours. And just to have that success of growth and graduation is just really propelled the program just, over the last couple of years.
We know as a PGA golf professional, gosh, and this has been a long time ago. I helped build a golf center called Terrace Hill Golf Center in Tampa, Florida, and we decided as a new little 9-hole golf course with the driving range and things like that, what kind of community outreach to do, and we ran across a gentleman named David Windsor that said,
Yep.
"Hey, we've got some folks at the VA hospital that we could really, why don't you bring them out every Friday morning and have a little golf clinic?" I said, "Sure, let's do that." Just one of the things you do. Well, I didn't realize how impactful the game of golf was to these veterans because, my goodness, some of them are suicidal, some of them are so badly injured, some of them just are lonely, and you know what? It was really something that the game of golf. These people, this is what they look forward to every Friday, and they didn't miss a Friday morning at all. It doesn't matter if it's raining, it was cold, or whatever.
It
It's
ain't
pouring
raining,
down
it ain't
rain,
training.
and they're out there, and they're out there, hitting it. So anyway, so yeah, that's really something. It's really great to see
Yeah.
a program, Adaptive Golf and like PGA Hope really grow. For our listeners out there, tell us a little bit more about the actual PGA Hope program
Sure.
that you're the liaison with the military and the veterans through the PGA of America. For our viewers out there, PGA Hope is PGA, it's all cap letters, but it's also Hope, all cap letters. So that's their program, and Chris, I know you're an integral part of it, and tell us a little bit about that, maybe how it got
Right.
established.
Right. So HOPE stands for the acronym Helping Our Patriots Everywhere. And that's what PGA Hope does, because golf is everywhere and we have veterans everywhere. So that's where that comes together. But what we do is we put veterans through a 6 to 8 week program, and it's scheduled on a certain day and a certain time. So we have the structure through that. And based on the veteran's skill level is how the curriculum will go. But the basic curriculum is taking the veteran from just learning how to grip the club all the way out to the last week, where when they graduate, they go and play around the golf. Now, with PGA Hope, with this, we recognize that we're not going to make PGA professionals, and we're not going to put veterans on the tour or anything. But what we're doing is what we call giving the veteran a moment in time. And what that relates to is, any of your listeners obviously have played the game of golf. And what's that one thing that you need to be thinking about when you're above that ball and about to strike it? You need to be clear minded. So we're teaching the veteran to be clear minded, because if they don't, they're going to get immediate result from that golf swing. If they're aggressive, if they're lazy, if they're not focused, or any of that. So what that does is it gives that veteran that moment in time where they're not reliving, re-experiencing all the trauma they've dealt with while overseas, and then coming back and getting back into society and becoming a productive member again. And that moment in time leads to bigger moments in time. So let's say the veteran goes out on that day of graduation and shoots 110. That's 110 moments in time during that veteran's day that he's not rethinking or reliving the trauma he's dealing with. So, golf to us, when starting this, was just debate. We had an understanding and knew that if we could get veterans' minds to think differently and not have our type A personality, that we can then extend those moment in times from the golf course to everyday life. Now, and with golf, sometimes, you get paired with someone that you may not get along with or may not be agreeable with. But that's also where it happens. You know what I mean? You can tell. I mean,
Yeah.
you can tell by the second hole if you're golfing with an ass clown or not. I mean, let's be let's call them what they are. So we're teaching the veteran that skill as well. Now,
Which is
bad
very
part,
hard, by the way.
exactly. But the bad part about this now is when the veteran's wife is asking him to go to the mall or do these different things, he's stuck because now he can't say anything because now he's golfing and getting out that way. So now he's got to pay, you know what I mean? So it just helps the veteran in the recovery process. And it's just been such a success to watch veterans, who have actually, come up and say, had it not be for this program, I was going.
Well, I
Well,
I could tell
what?
you, I
Go
could
ahead.
tell you firsthand. When I came back from Iraq, my roommate was also over in Iraq with me, and we both went through similar decompressions, but at different times. And I wouldn't even leave the bedroom. I wouldn't get out of bed. I didn't show up to formation. There, all the things that you're not supposed to do when you come back. And what he did was he took me and put me on a driving range, and he paid the golf ball picker upper guy to ride the cart around and let me hit golf balls at him. And that's what got me get me out of, just getting me out of my funk.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize how powerful that was. Him just getting me out there in the fresh air, not necessarily with somebody, but just give me the opportunity just to go out there and just take it, take 10 minutes for myself, and just rethink things. And so it's great that PGA Hope has a program. That was 30 years ago before
Right.
PGA Hope even began. And I had never realized how much golf really had a huge indent on my life itself, not only with my foundation, but just for me as a combat veteran, how to deal with like other people, like what Chris is saying, just get me out of my shell. Just let me just not be in the moment that we used to
Right.
be in all the time.
Right.
So it's huge what you guys are doing. It's amazing.
Thanks. Yeah. And a lot of this thought process and going down here has been based on my own personal experience and I in my adaptive sports, doing different things. A national Paralympic powerlifting team was all aggression. That's not helping my PTSD. That's not helping me deal with my. And then we used to have the USA used to have a stand-up amputee hockey team before I went to all sled. So we played on that and played over in Russia. And, when you're fighting all the time, that's really not helping you therapeutically
No,
either. So, you look at all these other sports that veterans do, where, therapy is really going to be in the game of golf when it gets right down to it, to get that mind clear thought process.
that's great.
Well, I remember early on in my career, I was made an honorary member of the National Amputee Golf Association. We hosted some pro-ams for them, and really taught me a lot about the golf swing and how to teach people how to play, because you had all types of amputees, double amputees, legs, arms, you name it. And really was an eye opener because these folks could really golf their ball and play very well. And what it did is it forced you not to feel sorry for yourself when you're out there playing bad, because you realize that, look at this guy, he's got one arm and he's enjoying the game and having a great time. So don't feel sorry for yourself. But
And you usually have a better score than you do.
well, yeah, and some of them did. Yes, that's why I had to get a day job. That's for sure. But hey, yeah, moving on to this is the theme of the show. So coming up in October on Columbus Day, I have the privilege of being the tournament director for the Warrior Companion Golf Tournament. We're going to be in St. Augustine at the King and the Bear, and we're going to have it on Monday, October 13th. And so we're looking forward to a lot of fun.
Columbus
And we're going
Day.
to race. And on Columbus Day, I heard that's coming back. I just heard the President of the United States says Columbus Day is coming back. Okay,
Yep.
here we go. So what's going to happen is we're going to have this golf tournament. We're going to raise some money for Warrior Companion. And we can talk about this tournament a little bit later. But one of the things that I thought about, well, I need to get Jack Bodolosky down to the PGA show this year. And I always do that throughout the years with all my clients and things like that. That I want them to see the golf industry, and I want them to interact with all the different organizations, whether it's the PGA of America or it could be Callaway Golf or any of those folks out there that are in the golf business. It's just a great gathering, as you experienced, Jack, and I know Chris, you've probably
It's
been.
one hell of a golf show, let me tell you.
Yeah, it's just fantastic. So
It's
what had
fantastic.
happened is I had so Jack and I are supposed to meet up right behind the big stage, where right in the main entrance there, and I was chit chatting with Don Ray, the president of the PGA of America, and we're going to have him on a MICDUP podcast on the 4th of June. So he's going to be on there, and we're going to send him a copy of this interview here, and because he's all excited about talking about the PGA, and he's got an interesting background and career, and so I thought he'd be newsworthy to not only golf professionals but just to the average golfer out there that takes an interest in the game. But
Hey, John,
Jack,
sorry for
yes,
interrupting, but I want to give you a good Don Ray opportunity here.
okay, well hold that for a sec, because
right.
I'm gonna set this up to figure out why Jack Bodolosky was late for my meeting. I'm standing there with the PGA of America president. I'm trying to Don, I got to go. My client, he's here. He might be lost. And so I peek around the corner, and there he is, standing next to a dog, and this gentleman with a beard, and I'm looking over, and I'm like, my goodness, what are you doing? And lo and behold, there we go. We meet you, Chris. We see the PJ Hope program. We meet Skeeter the dog.
Yeah.
And we knew a couple great things have happened because of that as we go forward. So I just wanted to let our viewers out there, that's how this all comes together. PGA show, PJ Hope, Chris Nowak, Jack Bodolosky, and a dog named Skeeter, Warrior Companion, all combined together. So I just wanted to set that up for everybody so they know that how in the world did these three characters all get together?
Exactly.
Now let's hear that Don Ray story. Let's hear it.
So Don Ray was in Philadelphia, and he was giving a speech to the Works fellows from PGA of America, which is one of our pillars, the DEI, making golf look like America, the DEI portion of PGA and the Works program, and we're in the inner city of Philadelphia at the Comcast building. So it's a very nice building, but it's in the city of Philadelphia. So Don Ray is on stage, and Don Ray can be, flamboyant. Don Ray can be, Don Ray's a character. He's a good character, but Don Ray has a presence, and he has his, as normal, his Jordans on. I guess they're called Jordans. I couldn't tell you one sneaker from another as long as it fits. But so he's got his Jordans on, and he's proceeding to tell this crowd about where he comes from. And he has a great story, which I'm sure you're going to talk about, and a lot of props to him on, his story as well, and mad respect for that. But so he's telling this story to this inner city population of youth about growing up in Vegas, how his mom worked at McDonald's and his dad was a dealer.
And they took it the other way, didn't they?
Correct. So he has no clue what he is saying and how it's being received. I'm looking around. Now, I'm from Philadelphia. Worked at the Philly VA for 12 years, lived there twice. And so I know Philly. And I'm looking around and I'm seeing these kids, they're slapping each other on the chest, laughing. and Don, he's feeling that from the audience. So he's taking it up a level with his story. And he had no clue whatsoever.
That's funny.
Not realizing that his dad was a casino blackjack dealer, obviously. So when you have him on ask him to tell the Philadelphia.
8 balls,
Yeah,
21. You
exactly.
know, it's
Yeah,
it's
Yeah.
it's
half
in
ounce.
the it's in the realm.
Yeah,
Yeah, well,
like,
we'll ask Don. Don, we understand you come from the streets and your dad was a dealer. Tell us about that.
yeah.
Well, that's
That's actually
fantastic.
yeah. So sorry to segue the
No,
chain.
No, it's
that's
great.
fantastic. Well, and that's kind of leads into. So, Jack, why don't you tell us how you and Chris have gotten together from your
Well, it's
organization?
it's kind of funny that Chris and I are from the same neck of the woods. I grew up in Trenton, New Jersey, and I went to Valley Forge Military Academy. So I know Philadelphia really well too. And it's funny that here we are on Mic'd Up talking about the old neighborhoods. It's just it's unbelievable how God puts the
Exactly.
right people together that are trying
Exactly.
to make a difference in
Thank you for
people's
saying.
lives.
Thank you for saying that.
And I met Chris. Chris wasn't there when I first went there. There was somebody else there. They told me there was a guy there with a dog. He wasn't there. He was probably, running around with his girlfriend or whatever at that point. But when I was supposed to meet with John, he happened to be there. And the other gentleman, when I handed the other gentleman my challenge coin, he says, "Oh, you need to meet Chris and Skeeter." He went and found John, for Chris and Skeeter for me and brought them over. And we hit it off like we were long lost brothers. He has a need. He's on a fixed income. He works his ass off. The dog is, care for your dog is very expensive. I have a veterinarian practice in upstate New York. My wife's a veterinarian. And I see people come in here and they'll walk out with an $1,800, $2,400 bill. And that's just routine stuff. That doesn't even cover the sick stuff.
Right.
When they get sick, you're talking $4, $6, $8, $10,000. So when not being a very good golf guy, I suck at golf. I broke 100 for the first time one time, which I brag about a lot. And it was a true break of 100, which is, normally guys
Right.
don't do that either. So, but I haven't done that since then. So to be completely honest, and I was interested in what PGA Hope did. I had no idea of what they did or what to do. They're up here in New York. Their main headquarters is up in Rochester, right? So they're not that far from me. So it was really nice to meet another veteran that was disabled, that understands how veterans think. And him having Skeeter, I knew there was a need there for take care of Skeeter because, as a combat medic, I have to take care of my brothers and sisters. I did an oath that I was going to, make sure I have their back for the rest of my life. And it's a real pleasure and honor to meet Chris and Skeeter and take care of Skeeter's, medical care if he's ever, hopefully he never needs any catastrophe stuff. But
But
at least we know he's covered if it's
right.
there if he needs to.
Yeah.
Um, and what PGA Hope is doing is amazing. I hope Warrior Companion gets that level at some point. That we're doing, massive major tournaments and raising funds and covering I want to cover 100 dogs in my lifetime. That's about $120,000 a year in insurance premiums. And at some point, I'd like to be able to, if a veteran or a first responder is disabled that doesn't have pet insurance, I want at some point to be able to write the check for them and give them a grant to take care of them. So that's where my mind is going long term with it. So, I have 13 dogs now. Skeeter's my 13th dog, and
Oh,
13's
that's
always
awesome.
been
That's perfect for his number.
my lucky number.
I
Just
love it.
just just so you know, I
That's
was always the
awesome.
13th guy out the door. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
13 was always the number that was on one of my bags or whatever. My room numbers were 13s.
I love
So, um, so it's kind of cool that it the synergy is
it.
like
Yeah.
so massive around Chris and Skeeter. And it just makes me want to get up and do more. Knowing that I have guys like Chris and dogs and animals like Skeeter that are under my wing, let's say. They're part of my unit.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Yeah.
So I just can't say enough about it. It's going to take a little while to get it there, but we'll get it there. And
Yep.
I thank you, John, for stepping up and taking this tournament hands-on, like bulls to the horn, bulls with horns. And I can't even thank you enough. You have no idea, because I know how hard it is just to get two guys together, let alone 88 of them, and gals. I can't forget the gals, because gals are more important or more welcome to come as well. They
Hey,
sure.
while we're talking about this, there's another twist to the story of the 2025 PGA show, the PGA Hope, Skeeter, Warrior Companion. We had a gentleman, a friend of Jack's, and Jack can tell you a little bit more about his background, but he's a veteran, and his name's Brandon. And there was that Ryder Cup cart that was sitting in the PGA of America display where the PGA Hope booth
We
was and
got a
all that.
really good picture of you driving that
Yeah,
sucker.
yeah. And so what they did is they were just selling raffle tickets, like $20. So you give them $20. I'm like,
Actually, I
you
think
know,
the raffle was free. The donation was.
You're right. Right.
oh,
The
okay.
raffle was free.
So,
The raffle
so
was free.
we gave money. So
Right.
Yeah,
karma was
yeah.
there.
So we signed up for a raffle ticket, and so the PJ show's over, and I was just recapping it with Jack, what he thought about the sights and the sounds, and obviously hooking up with Skeeter and you, Chris, and all that. It was fun. And then all of a sudden, we find out our friend Brandon won this Ryder Cup golf cart that was on display. It's the captain's cart, the one that Captain Bradley will be using at the Ryder Cup up at Bethpage later on. It's incredible. I
They're
actually
actually
knew somebody, and
they're
I was
actually
just like,
building
wait
a
a
new
second.
one.
And then I knew again. That's why that was the symptom of not being late, because he got his ticket before I bought mine. Had I got there early, I would have won that golf cart. But it was great. So our friend Brandon won the cart. Tell us a little bit about Brandon, Jack, and the
So
little golf cart story there.
Brandon's a U.S. Army infantry veteran. He was in Iraq, and part of his squad went out on routine. They hit an IED. He was one of three survivors of that episode. Believe it or not, they finally just got his 100% disability after all these years fighting with the VA. And Brandon is a huge golfer. He went to what was the school, John? You know better than I do.
Well,
He went to
he went to one of the trade schools in Orlando that was active at the
used
time.
his
Where you,
GI Bill to use to
yeah,
go to the academy.
yeah, it was a
So
golf academy of the South or something where you
Right.
could go and and get college level courses, but also get trained in the golf business, do internships and stuff like that. It's a great program for people that weren't going to go to college and they want to get in the golf business, but they need some training. So it was a wonderful program.
and Brandon golfs a lot. He golfs probably 2-3 times a week. And it's really benefiting. I realize how much fun golf can be if you have the right guys with you. It could be a real blast. I mean, stuff that you just go home and talk about for years. It's like being in the Army or even in the Marines or any service. You have this group of guys that you can just, something pops up and you're like, oh my God, we talked about that in the field and we all died laughing. And, it's just the camaraderie in golf with the right mixture of guys and going out there and playing a game that really you can't win. It's challenging as shit. One day you just may have a great day, like I did one day, and that gets you up to go and do more because you think you could do it again and do better. And then there's days that are so rotten and horrible that you're like, man, I'm quitting this damn thing, but you can't quit because it's like you miss being out there with those guys or gals that you're the golf with. And almost like being back in the branches. It's
It's you really bring up an important aspect of kind of what I've left out. I should have talked about too. Of one of the things that makes Hope so successful about PJ Hope is that the instructors like Dave Windsor, who used to be a national trainer, a Patriot Award winner, um, they're specifically trained on PGA Hope on how to teach adaptive golf. But the majority of that training is spent teaching them military culture, getting them to understand that we're different cats. We speak a different language amongst ourselves that you're not going to get or understand. We're going to say something that you may think is the most inappropriate thing that could be humanly said.
Yeah.
And it's actually a compliment.
Most of my friends said, I want to let you know this is Jack, and I want to warn you about him. But he's a good guy because I'll say some shit that just comes out of left field all the time.
Right. But, we recognize, when putting this together, I recognize that that's a valuable component. There's two different, I call it two different worlds, and have from day one. You have the golf world and you have the veteran world. These two worlds are just spinning in a different direction. Neither is better than the other one. I'm just saying they just spin in a different direction. So when you're trying to get them together, there needs to be a learning process. There needs to be an education done, recognizing that. And so that's why we spend a fair amount of that day of training to be a Hope instructor on understanding military culture. If you say it's going to start at 10 a.m. in the morning, you better have someone there probably about 9:30.
Yep.
Because someone's showing up early. And
you better have coffee in hand.
Yep. And also, and I tried to explain to pros when I talk to them, don't be scared to ask a veteran to go do something. Hey, can you go grab that bucket of balls? Or hey, can you go grab, they're gonna do it. And they're gonna get, believe it or not, a little something out of it.
Yeah.
And it's just and so the cultures, but it's working.
That's great.
Well, I didn't really realize that, as a PGA golf professional, I've been to one of the adaptive golf clinics and things, and now it dawns on me what they were trying to communicate with us at that time, because you're right, that the culture of the game of golf and the military culture, they are dramatically different. There's a bridge there. Obviously, the game can provide that and some of the values that the game of golf brings, and vice versa. But
right.
That's a very insightful point. It's not so much about trying to figure out how to hit a golf ball as it is trying to get them to enjoy the game of golf and be able to communicate with them so they continue using golf as a way of life for them, to be able to improve their own lives and have some fun at the same time. So that's a very good point.
Right. And you touched on it, the word integrity. You look at the game of golf, there is no other game that has that sort of self-ruling type of integrity. And you look at the veteran population,
and not as self-challenging either, mentally, physically,
right.
and spiritually.
So then you take a type A warfighter and who's been held accountable and was going to tell the truth and is going to count everything they do. That's where the blend works, and you see that. And I think that helps the two worlds work together, is that ingredient.
Well, Chris,
that's why veterans need dogs, because the dogs don't complain when the veteran's having a shitty moment either. Exactly. So, it's the parallels are unbelievable.
Hey, so Chris, so is Skeeter available? Is he star of the show?
Let me see. Yeah, I think he's.
Go get Skeeter, because he's why we're here.
Yeah, let's see if I can get him.
Bring him on. Yeah, put him on the camera. Let me see. I'll take a closer look here.
Chris, he's got to be an army dog because he's lazy.
Nah, he golfed with me yesterday, and yeah.
Is he sleeping?
Yep.
Well, I can hear him snoring in the background.
No, that's that beast right there.
I was checking my earphones, my noise cancellation. I was thinking, is there something going on outside my house? Your dog was snoring in the background. That's fantastic.
That is my bulldog, Colonel Jessup.
That's awesome.
His name. He is a old English bulldog, and he's 74 pounds. And
wow,
he's a beast. And that's what he does 23 and a half hours a day, right there.
Wow,
that's awesome.
Yeah. Hey, well, tell us, get us a bio on Skeeter. So tell us a little bit about your dog.
So this is funny, and you talk about how you meet people in your life, and you are meant to meet them. God's plan, God's will, wherever you believe in. I truly believe that you do meet people for a reason, and this is kind of leads me to Jack and I meeting, but before that, getting Skeeter. So working for the VA, involved in adaptive sports, and then doing PGA Hope for the last 10 years, I've had a lot of exposure and a lot of different opportunities in my life. Been offered, service dogs, things like that. And I've always said no to service dogs. Just felt, I,
Not
what,
worthy.
right, not worthy. What, who am I? I can get up in the morning. All I got to do is put a leg on,
Right.
type of stuff. So I ended up, when first getting involved with PGA Hope, doing a Fairways to Freedom tour over in Ireland, where you take 12 veterans over there. They played Northern Ireland, Royal Portrush. Great trip. Long story short, I get roomed with a guy named Terry Finley, who was about my age. So we were the older cats in the group, who was 19 years in SF for the Army, a legit SF guy, not somebody who says, that I did verify.
Not the patch ranger.
Right, right. No, he was, he was legit, and that's why we got along so good. We just clicked. We were great roommates. We get back. It's one of the first place I open up a PJ Hope program. He then a couple years later gets involved in a nonprofit called Clear Path for Veterans. As that nonprofit grows and they start to grow, they now do service dogs. So he called me up and talked to me about, a, you know, I I know you need a dog. I roomed with you for a week over in Ireland, and I drank with you for a week. You need a dog. I'm telling you right now. you know, but so we ended up, saying, all right, let's do this. And and part of it was for me was, I don't know if I really need a dog, but at least I can help Terry's organization grow by talking about them and having Skeeter with me and helping promote him. That was, I would say, going into it, probably 80% of why I was doing it. Not recognizing how more wrong I've ever been in any thought process in my entire life. And I'm talking 3 failed marriages too. So, when I tell you that not recognizing the need and not doing it earlier, I regret, but I also wouldn't have Skeeter because of it. So I think the whole timing of everything, being in a spot in my life where being able to recognize that there are things I need to deal with, and Skeeter is the greatest thing for me. Back on a routine, spend every day with him. We train. He golfs with me. Where I go, he goes, and it's
They're grounding rods.
yeah, it's and one of the things that I love about it, and when finally recognizing my need, everybody knows Skeeter's name. Nobody knows my name.
That's even the better part too.
And that's the greatest part about it. That is the greatest part about it. I don't have a name. People aren't asking, how'd you lose your leg? What do you do for any of that?
Yeah.
And it deflects so much, but also has given me so much. And then, and realizing this is my last year with PGA of America, I'm going to retire. So, I have some free time if Jack ever needs anything that I can help him with, because I believe in so much of what he's doing, and just think that we need to grow that, because there
You
is a
know,
need.
that's that's the beauty part of my organization is I'm doing something that no one else is doing.
Yep.
We provide the service member with a disabled car.
Yep.
We provide them with a house.
All that.
We provide them with a dog, but
Yep.
we don't provide them any ways or means of keeping
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. And it's funny because the VA does it through the prosthetics department, but the ridiculous of the hoops you got to jump through, got to
It's
be
not even worth it.
it's not even worth it. That's why I never did it. And
And
I
then
never.
you have to live close to a military post that
Yeah.
has a veterinarian on it.
It's
And not
ridiculous.
every veteran has that.
No, it absolutely is. So, recognizing, not realizing even thinking about it. But as as I was making the decision to step away from, and retire, is you start thinking about your finances. Okay, do I have enough saved for this, and do I have enough saved for that? And I wasn't like sweating it and like,
And you'll mortgage the house to save your dog.
right. I'm not going to be on the boardwalk taking my leg off and trying to get people to drop change in it type of thing. But
Right.
it's a thought process.
You might if you have to.
Yeah, oh, I would. I'm stopping at a truck stop. I draw the line.
That's it.
Not even no eye contact rule. It's just not happening, guys. So you don't think about it, and then when you do, and just to have that conversation with Jack and not even recognizing what he did, but just talking about golf and just talking about dogs, and then all of a sudden he throws that on me and is like, hey, let's get Skeeter. And I was like, I didn't believe it at first. And let me be honest about this. Again, I've been doing this for 10 years. And before that, I was, worked at headquarters and traveled and, was the authority on sports and veterans. So I've been in the public and been offered help and offered things, opportunities. Hey, we'd like to do this. You'd like to do this. We can do, you know how it is, Jack.
I know. And the other thing is that you don't want to give up your information to some stranger either.
Right.
Even any of it. Because that's not how that's not how we are.
Yeah, exactly. And you're like, I don't need that. I don't need, but just the connection with Jack and just feeling that, like, and just getting Skeeter and, enrolled and him taking care of it. And it was just such a flawless thing. And just everybody was so cooperative, and it just was meant to be. And, I feel very, very fortunate.
I probably would have a lot more dogs if the veterans would just do what I ask them to do so we can get them covered.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to cover them unless they do it. So,
accountability.
You have to, the veteran, that's one thing that I need to work on better is the communication, why we need what we need, because there's people out there with stolen valor that'll be happy to take your dog's pet insurance over you getting it.
Yep.
And we got to make sure that our guys and girls who deserve it are getting what they need.
Right.
And a lot of my veterans that I think they don't even talk to me. They don't, what do you call it? But if something's going on with their dog, I'm the first to know.
Yeah.
It's
again, Jack, I'm going to have some free time.
All right.
October, I'm done,
All right.
and anything I can do.
All right. Well, we're looking forward to you to come on up.
Yeah. We're looking for you to come up with golf.
Yeah.
Yeah. You need to come on up and bring Skeeter with you, obviously. And, so that's a good segue to go ahead and wrap this thing up here. I just do want to mention the Warrior Companion Golf Tournament. It's Monday, October 13th, Christopher Columbus Day at the World Golf Village, King and the Bear. That's in St. Augustine. That's the golf course that was designed by Jack Nicklaus and Arnold Palmer. Really, really beautiful golf course up there. And St. Augustine's just a wonderful place to be. You can stay at the World Golf Village. They get the Murray Brothers restaurant there. So a lot of fun with that. So just mark your calendar. If you want to know more about it, you can go to warriorcompaniongolf.blogspot.com. We've got a little blog set up there, warriorcompaniongolf.blogspot.com. All the information's there. Really easy to sign up, become a team sponsor, and we'll have some fun. So with that, we're going to wrap this up here. You've been listening to John Reger Golf is Mic'd Up, presented by Zenni Optical. Affordable, high-quality eyewear for everyone. Visit ZenniOpticalToday.com, actually. And so you've been hearing from Jack Bodolosky from Warrior Companion, an organization that provides veterans with service animal health care, and Chris Nowak, Marine Corps veteran and PJ Hope's military and veteran liaison. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for being on this episode of Mic'd Up. I just had a wonderful time learning a little bit more about both your organizations, but also the heart and soul and why you do this. And we're really looking forward to working together in the future. And with that, I want to wish everybody, all our listeners out there, a good day. And we'll see you next time here on John Reger Golf is Mic'd Up. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate you both.
Thanks. Appreciate the opportunity, Jack. Again, take me up on my offer.
We will.
Please.
Definitely will.
Fantastic, everybody.
And John,
thank you so much.
You email me a link to this when you put it up?
You betcha. Not only, while you mention this, we'll do a little self promotion here. This MICDUP is really cool technology because obviously this is moderated conversations, right? We're just able to talk about whatever we want to, but it's fun and it's positive. This isn't one of those bomb throwing shows looking for clicks and likes. This is just casual conversations, really, with interesting people and great personalities in golf, which you both certainly have that category covered. All right. But it's also, we use AI in a positive way. We create these little clips out there. And on these clips, it might be a minute, minute and a half, and it'll pull out some of the great things we talked about during the show. You're talking about, how you got involved with SKEETER, and we're talking about Jack coming back from Iraq, and we're talking about, a limited involvement I had when, 30 years ago when Adaptive Golf first started getting together. And, a funny story about Don Ray and, just on and on about PJ Hope and all the things that happen. So you'll get these clips. Chris, and you can take these clips and you can post them on your social media. You can email them to folks, and we'll have a great time sharing the show. And
love to.
the viewers out there, they download this app and they can go on the archives and watch this. But you could also go to johnregergolf.com or warriorcompaniongolf.blogspot.com, and you can actually watch the whole show if you want, or just the AI clips. So with that, we're looking forward to it.
Is it possible just to get a link in an email that I can click on and then send to
you betcha. We'll make it. We'll make it as easy as possible. Yes.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. We're all getting up there a little bit. We may not be as savvy as the younger technicians of the internet are out there. The folks that have the purple hair and the earrings and that write the code. So we'll send you a link. It'll be fun. So with that, everybody, thanks for listening to John Reger Golf is MIC'd Up. Have a good day. We'll see you next time.
Thanks a lot, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.